In this lesson, we will talk about evaluation and testing in ESP. For the overview of the topic, it is according to Anderson that evaluation can be defined as the discovery of the value of something for some purpose. While according to Murphy, evaluation is concerned with describing what is there and placing some value judgment on what is found. With regard to ESP, we are seeking to establish the effectiveness and efficiency of teaching programmers. The testing, often equated with evaluation, is only a part of it. However, Swan suggests 8 possible reasons for the underdevelopment of evaluation in ESP, including the shortness or even one-off nature of ESP courses, the time-consuming nature of evaluation, and the lack of any felt need for evaluation. In addition, in 1983, Anderson and Waters wrote that only limited numbers of articles have been published in the area of ESP testing. But nowadays, there have been a lot of journals related to ESP testing. ESP tests are related in content, themes, and topics to particular disciplines and involve a higher degree of language specificity. Let us talk about evaluation. So, according to Pauline Robinson in his books, he defines evaluation as the discovery of the value for some purposes. Other clear definitions are proposed by Alderson and Murphy, who writes that evaluation is concerned with describing what is there and placing some value on what is found. In addition, there are some scholars stated that the evaluation has been neglected in ESP. But Swan suggests 8 possible reasons for the underdevelopment of evaluation in ESP. Some of the possible reasons, according to Swan, are the shortness or even one-stop nature of ESP courses, the time-consuming nature of evaluation, and the lack of any felt of evaluation. So what is the importance of ESP course? ESP has developed in response to certain pressures. Developments in the theoretical basis of language teaching indicated a need to pay more attention to the individual learner. The world of commerce and technology were producing hosts of people with specific language learning needs at that time. A demand was generated as a result for courses which would equip particular learners with necessary skills to carry out particular tasks in English. Um, like any other language teaching course, ESP has requirements which are brought sharply into focus by the fact that ESP has specified objectives. ESP learners and sponsors are investors in ESP course, and they want to see a return on their investment of time or money. The managers of the ESP course are accountable to these investors. This accountability has produced a demand for more and better evaluation procedures. So we have here 2 basic types of evaluation. A basic distinction can be made between formative evaluation and summative evaluation. First, we have formative evaluation. Formative evaluation is carried out during the life of a course or project, and the results obtained can be used to modify what is being done. While summative evaluation is carried out when the course or project is finished. Therefore, the result of the summative evaluation will be used as the basis to take decision whether to repeat the course or not. A further distinction can be made between process and product evaluation. A process evaluation may be concerned with teaching and learning strategies or processes, and administrative and decision-making process, while a product evaluation will look in particular at a student's product such as examination results, essays, etc. So, why should we carry out an evaluation? Since both formative and summative evaluation can be undertaken to provide data as input to possible changes, thus evaluation can be used in particular as part of quality control. In other cases, an evaluation may function as a source of information and experience. A further reason for carrying out an evaluation may be to ensure that money is being or has been well spent. So, what is the subject of the evaluation exercise? An evaluation exercise can be wide-ranging or very limited in scale. The subject may be a whole ESP projector course or just one or some aspects. Long suggests that the formative evaluation typically look at such factors as teachers' and students' attitudes toward curricular innovation or at the usability of new instructional materials. A summative evaluation may look at virtually all aspects of a program, possibly with a particular interest in cost effectiveness. Okay, so we have here two levels of evaluation. The first one is the learner assessment. In any language course, there is a need to assess students' performance at any strategic point. For example, at the start or at end. Learner assessment has great importance in ESP because it deals with the ability to perform particular communicative tasks, and the result of this kind of evaluation enables sponsors, learners, and teachers to decide whether and how much tuition is required. So for the second one, we have the course evaluation. Evaluating ESP course helps to establish whether it is meeting its aims or not. Course evaluation also plays a useful social role by showing the various parties involved, for example, the teachers, learners, sponsors, etc., that their views are important. In this sense, then both course and learner evaluations have a similar function in providing feedback on the ESP course. However, each type of evaluations also has other purposes.
How is the evaluation carried out? First, it is done through questionnaires. Obvious problems with questionnaires are their length, possible misinterpretation of questions by respondents, and failure of respondents to return them. Questionnaires are given to students, ex-students, ESP teachers, and subject specialists. Second is through checklist. It is shorter than questionnaire and is used for small-scale aspects of a program such as speaking skill. Interviews. It is very time-consuming but provides the opportunity for more extended exploration of the points. To make the interviews effective and efficient, it must be well planned. Fourth is observation. Observation is done during the classroom process. Before doing observation, we must prepare appropriate observation sheets. Besides observing the present students, it is also possible to observe the past students to see the effectiveness of the course. Fifth is discussions. Class discussion can form a regular part of the program. The topic, the content, or the general approach to methodology. Six is records. Records of the project or program such as the original planning documents, statements of needs, aims, and objectives are ideally kept from the beginning. These reports are used for evaluation purposes in the form of checklists which can be filled right after the lesson is over or in the form of a diaries of students and teachers' experiences on a course. Last is through assessment. It includes tests and examinations, the evaluations of a student's project, written work, which are carried out by teachers or evaluators. Brindley suggested that students are better to be involved in the assessment process by having student self and peer assessment. There are four aspects of ESP course evaluation that is need to be considered. First is what should be evaluated. There are two important things that must be constrained. First is the ability of the teacher that collects the information, and the next is the ability of the teacher to use the information for evaluating. Remember, it can be annoyed everyone if you collect the information in detail. It is possibly at inconvenience, time and expense, and then doing a little or nothing with it. Also, there are two basic questions before assessing the students. First is the course fulfilling the language learner's needs? Or has the course fulfilled or is the course fulfilling language users' needs? Also, we need to focus attention to identifying the sources of these problems. It should answer the following questions. First is, were the unfulfilled needs identified during the course design process? If not, why not? And next is, how can the course be changed to take these needs into account? If these needs were identified during the course design process, why are they not being? Have they not been fulfilled? Is the fault in the syllabus, the materials, the teaching and learning techniques, the testing procedures, logical or administrative arrangements, and the course system? And another aspect that needs to be considered is how can ESP courses be evaluated? In theory, there are many ways to evaluate ESP course from simulation to suggestion boxes. However, in practice, the most techniques to evaluate ESP course are test results, questionnaires, discussion, interview, and informal means through comment, casual, or chats. Also, the suitable techniques are used based on the teaching situation best. For gathering the evaluation information is in the first stage process, then collected and summarize it if it is extensive. It needs to be discussed with all interested parties and conclusion drawn. Finally, it is included in evaluation report as a basis for further discussion and decision making. Another aspect is who should be involved in the evaluation. Evaluation is concerned with people, evaluation of value, and the opinions. It is related with their interests and concern. Getting learners' views are more difficult because they do not give real view. Learners thought that the views will influence their assessment. Therefore, the views of learners could support the ESP course and useful for feedback. The way of getting information by asking who you ask and how you ask is important. And last aspect is when and how often should evaluation take place. According to Hutchinson and Waiter in 2008, the most appropriate time to evaluate the course are: first is in the first week of the course, at regular intervals throughout the course, at the end of the course, and at the end of the course in each meeting, because it's effective to know how well the course achieved the goal. It is difficult to prescribe how often course evaluation should be done. It needs sensitivity and respond in evaluating the course. Besides, it also depended on the characteristics of the individual teaching situation.
Testing. ESP testing is a relatively neglected area. In 1983, Alderson and Walters wrote that only limited numbers of articles have been published in the area of ESP testing. But nowadays, there have been a lot of journals related to ESP testing. ESP tests are related in content, themes, and topics to particular disciplines and involves a higher degree of language specificity. ESP tests are more concerned to present learners with tasks that involve them in reading, listening, speaking, or writing the target language, and evaluating how well they can do this. Of course, an important component in assessing how well somebody can use English is how accurately they can produce or understand text written or spoken in the language. But the key to this assessment is to present learners with the tasks that resemble in some of the sort of things they may have to do with the language in real life. Therefore, the ESP approach in testing is based on the analysis of learners' target language used, situations, and specialist knowledge of using English for real communication. And there are three types of tests, which is the first one is the placement test, the second one is the achievement test, and the last one is the proficiency test. Placement test. The aim of placement test is to determine the learner's state of knowledge before the ESP begins. Placement tests are used to place the learners in the ESP course more suited to student needs. If a learner is already proficient in the skills required, no further tuition is required. The placement tests are diagnostic, indicating how far and in what ways the learners falls short of the proficiency level. A good placement test should reveal positive factors. It should show not just what the learner lacks, but also what potential for learning can be exploited in ESP course. So, placement tests. These are used to place the learners in ESP course most suited to their needs. The placement normally comes at the beginning of the course. Achievement test. Achievement test is the least problematic because it is usually internal to the course and does not have to conform to external influences. It should reflect the nature and the content of the course itself. This kind of test usually ESP teacher is most likely to have to construct. And these are the three basic principles in constructing an achievement test. The first one is test what you can assume the learners have learned, but not necessarily the same as what you have taught. The second one is the test should test what you actually want to test. And the third one is avoid bias in the test. Achievement tests are the achievement test. So these test how well the learners achievement test. These test how well the learners are keeping up with the syllabus and can be administrated. Achievement test. These test how well the learners are keeping up with the syllabus and can be administrated anytime through the course. Proficiency test. David West, 1984, in the Introduction to Guide to English Language Examinations, identify the primary purpose of language testing in the 80s as proficiency testing designed to assess whether candidates will be able to perform the language test required to them. Such tests, they say, are primarily criterion reference. There is no pass or fail distinction, but rather a scale of degrees of proficiency in the task. Proficiency tests or for specific purposes should therefore be able to give a reliable indication on whether a candidate is proficient enough to carry out the task that will be required. Proficiency tests these assess whether or not the students can cope with the demands of a particular situation. So, the placement tests are the tests that are used to assess whether or not the students are ready to take the course. And the achievement test, on the other hand, evaluate the learner's understanding of a specific course or study program and measures how much they have learned in a specific time, which can be or at the end of the chapter or at the end of a course, or to specify their weak points and their strengths. However, proficiency tests measure how much learners are able to use the knowledge or skills they have learned in real-time situations. And these tests evaluate the learner's level of knowledge or skills in a specific area. In other words, the proficiency test is an evaluation of how well a person can use language to communicate in real life. It refers to one's ability to use language for real-world purposes to accomplish real-world linguistics tasks across a wide range of topics and settings.
Good morning, I am Maricarty Tolentino and today I am going to discuss the other types of tests. We have the performance-based testing. In this type of test, this is approach wherein candidate must interact with real or simulated system. It means that performance-based testing puts certification candidates in situation where they must use their knowledge, demonstrate their skills, solve common problems, and perform troubleshooting tasks. Give example of performance-based tests, we have presentation, portfolio, play, and projects. Hence, depending on characteristics, language and other tests can be. First, norm reference test. It provides information about an individual's relative rank with reference to other individuals who have taken the test. Second, the criterion reference test. This test as the score is reported and interpreted as reference to the specific context, domain, or criterion of performance. Performance-based test, in a simple term, it is a student learning test and assessment in which it is aligned in the real-life scenarios or challenges. So the potential idea why the performance-based testing is very important in ESP course or in school in general, it is because for the students to become prepared in the life outside the school. Unlike the multiple choice and essays that is not really required in career. In a matter of fact, career focus on the performance. That is the reason why the performance-based testing is very important in ESP course. Now, when you are going to implement performance-based test in ESP course, it is really take time to plan, assess, and implement so that the teacher must provide sufficient time to implement that specific task. Based task is really difficult for the students. So you as an ESP educator, you must thorough the feedback. You as an ESP educator must guide the student in the activity to make the meaningful task. The most significant sides of performance-based testing, it is really focus on the cognitive skills of the students. Why? Because in this type of learning or in this type of assessment, the student must be function their higher order thinking skill because their tasks are beyond memorizing. In fact, the students here are given freedom to think and plan creatively because they are going to analyze, plan, and create. So, how specific should the content be? Remember, when devising an ESP test, one should aim at creating good and dependable measures of language ability which need to. The first one, the content must be valid. A test has content validity if it measures knowledge of the content domain of which it was designed to measure knowledge. Second, the topic form must be parallel. Like ELTS tests, those have three parallel forms including the life sciences, physical sciences, and arts. And third, it must authentic as possible. Authentic assessment is the idea of using creative learning experiences to test students' skills and knowledge in a realistic situation. And the fourth one, provide accurate and reliable measures of language ability. Language test is conducted to test the students' linguistic and communicative competence, enable them to function in a workplace and school. In fact, according to Nunnally, reliability is concerned with the extent to which measurements are repeatable if all items being studied were included. In other words, reliability can describe as extent to which a test measures which is purpose to measure consistently and accurately. Also, it must have beneficial effects because ESP test is an aid to learning encompassing benefits such as reinforcement, confidence building, and involvement and building on strengths. And last, it must be practical and economical in terms of administration, time, money, and personnel. One of the prevailing principles of ESP testing is that tests should contain tasks that mirror faithfully those of the candidate's target language use situation. This means that ESP tests should be based on direct evaluation of language ability and acts of communication, those including reading, speaking, writing, and listening skills, and assessment of content knowledge in situation and activities which are engaging and realistic as possible for the learners. Then, on the other hand, when we talk the primary goal of ESP test, it is to obtain information about the learner's specific purpose language ability. because in the present day, it is increasingly important not only to be able to use a foreign language, but also to be able to demonstrate that one can use it at the level required by employers, schools, or even universities. Considering this, ESP examinations are gaining more and more attention and are becoming an indispensable tool in the modern educational society. That's why the expert in ESP mass teaching should involve professionals from various domains in designing and conducting relevant research so that ESP tests would become more fair, reliable, authentic, valid, and practical. In general thought, evaluation in the ESP is the process of examining to determine what's working or not in the program. The ESP evaluation, where the teacher assesses him or herself, the students, and the learning materials. The two basic types of evaluation are the formative and the summative evaluation. In formative evaluation, it is carried out during the life of a course or a project, and the result obtained can be used to modify what is being done. While on the summative evaluation, it is carried out when the course or project is finished. Therefore, the results of the summative evaluation will be used as the basis to take a decision whether to repeat the course or not. These two are come up to know whether the objectives of ESP has been achieved by the learners. For evaluation in able to carry out, ESP teachers and some experts use the questionnaire, checklist, interview, observation, discussion, record, and assessment. Evaluation in ESP situation is concerned with the effectiveness and efficiency of learning with achieving the objectives. In this way, the teachers and some other experts can detect what is the positive effect or what are needed to be changed in a course program. ESP testing is based on the analysis of the learner's target language use, situation, and specialized knowledge of using English language for communication. There are three types of tests in ESP course, which includes placement, achievement, and proficiency tests. Other types of tests are the performance-based, norm criterion, and criterion reference test. The primary goal of ESP tests is to obtain information about the learner's specific purpose language ability. ESP test is important to assess if the students have the certain language and skills to undertake a particular academic course or career, which is important aspect to prepare them in the real world. ESP testing is to assess if the students are gaining and learning in the ESP course.